Hello there. It's August 4th, 2020. My name is Joe Weston, and we're here for our weekly um, global practice for reviving the global heart. Still trying that on. This was the weekly global online meditation for lasting peace, and we're shifting the perspective a little bit to this idea of reviving the global heart. And it's great to see familiar faces. It's always good to see new faces, people from various parts of the world coming to join us. And in these sessions, what we do is we gather in community, we support one another with our own practices. We get to practice together. We get to share ideas together. And the format is I'll start with a little bit of a talk just to help us set the context. Then we'll do our practice. Then there'll be time afterwards to reflect. And I've been thinking a lot about what this practice is and the format of the practice. And there's a particular structure that I use for it, for those of you who've been doing it on a regular basis. And it starts with the self. And for me, that's an important component. There's, for me, in terms of what this is, a lot of this work, this idea, what does it mean, lasting peace? And what does reviving the global heart mean? And that is, of course, a large goal, if that's something you're interested in and want to commit to. And how do we create that, and how do we make that happen? And I'm just finding that as I talk to more and more people in this time now with COVID and a lot of things that are unfolding on the planet is more and isolation and not feeling and feelings of uncertainty. And many people just struggling with this sense of where can I find power at this moment? If there's so much uncertainty, so much stress and anxiety, where for myself can I feel like I can feel empowered? And while for each one of us, we may not be able to shift things culturally by ourselves, or we may not be able to influence policy, even though we would like to. And I'm sure each one of us has our own viewpoints about how we could perhaps run things better in certain parts of the world. Do we have access to that, to be able to do that? And so that could create a sense of lethargy or apathy or feeling powerless, which can cause a lot of anxiety and stress. And then the question is, of course, with this work and all the work that we do with the Weston Network is this idea of how can we within ourselves find our own authentic power? And in a sense, we have many icons who we admire and models, one being John Lewis, who just recently passed, who basically devoted his life and basically said, I may not see in my lifetime the thing that I'm striving for, but that's not going to stop me from striving for and literally coming close to death to commit to the path of for what was for him important. And for those of you who come on a regular basis, I'm assuming I wouldn't say that we are John Lewis's, although some of you might be, but where within ourselves is that passion to see culture shift in ways that are that does create more access to power, to equity, income, overcoming income disparities, equality, more justice, and less violence. So within yourself, how can you feel like you're having power at this time? And one of the fundamental beliefs that I have is that for there to be lasting change, to really shift cultural transformation, it has to start with personal transformation. And that a lot of our time and attention is devoted outside of ourselves. And in a sense, you could say that with lockdown and with us spending a lot of time on the internet, that our focus is outward, or our worries are outward. And that actually a very revolutionary act right now could be to devote time and energy to yourself, to your own self-care. And that to just consider this idea that one of the most revolutionary acts that you can do in the 21st century is to cultivate contentment, is to truly feel like what you have is enough, or to truly feel that, to create a life where you feel that you have enough. Because there's so many forces externally that are constantly giving us the message that we're not good enough, that we're not wealthy enough, that we don't have the perfect abs, we're not attractive enough, we're not powerful enough. And those messages can really get inside of us and shift how we really see about how we see ourselves. So all of this work really starts with the self and ends with the self. And this idea of personal transformation leads to cultural transformation. One of the concepts that I use is occupy your heart. That what if creating shift really starts with the self? And what that has to do with is taking a look at where might you still be contributing to some of the polarization, to the challenges, to the adversity that's happening. And not saying that you should feel bad and harm yourself for that, but to just see that's a very courageous act to be able to go within and do the work for yourself to resolve or reconcile where you might be still have challenges within yourself in terms of your level of concentration and your capacity, your resilience, in terms of your own level of bias, and in terms of your own thoughts around how wealth is distributed, how much you have or don't have. How taking one of the greatest quotes that I've been using for years in the respectful confrontation work is by the Peace Pilgrim. If you don't know who the Peace Pilgrim is, I would recommend you take a look her up. She was quite a remarkable woman. It's an American woman who in the 1950s was fed up with the fact that there was war. And so she gave up everything and she decided to walk around the country with a pencil. That's basically a pencil, I think that's what it was. And she said she was going to keep walking until there was no more war. Well, she was already in her 50s in the 1950s, and she was walking to till her life ended in the 80s. But in that time, she wrote the most remarkable treatises on peace. And one of her basic philosophies, which really resonated with me and has stuck with me for all my life since I've heard it and really has influenced my work, is what she said was, we are not going to solve world war and crime if we first don't look at our own personal psychological violence and take steps to overcome that. And basically the basic message is and to have the courage to look and see how are we contributing in our own way. And yes, we might not be dropping bombs and we might not be creating policies that oppress people, but even in our day-to-day actions with loved ones, strangers, or adversaries, how might we be harming one another and ourselves and our environment and the planet? And if we can each take responsibility for that, that's how we already can see shifts happening. And again, it sounds kind of Hallmark cardy, like I used to say. I'm nothing against Hallmark, but that idea of, one person can make a change, and it's really true. If you follow that, you really can see that is possible. So there's a reason why in this practice we start with the self. It's how do we get ourselves grounded and into our own authentic sense of power of who we are, our own motivation, our own sense of who we are, our resilience, our own compassion, to get into our personal power and our hearts. And that already, that's enough of a practice. And then throughout the practice, for those of you who know it, and for those of you who are here for the first time, you'll experience that in a moment. We take the journey to bring our focus outside, more to our surroundings, to those that we gather with, and to all human beings. And then we bring that all back to ourselves, because in a sense, if you want to be a change agent, if you want to be more effective in living according to your values, then it really all starts and ends with the self. And the more you feel anchored within yourself with your own personal philosophy and values, the more likely that you can have an impact without even having to put a lot of effort into it. And that what we say in all the work that we do is that the more present you are, the more of an impact you can have. The more connected and have true engagement with someone else, the more likely you can influence them in a beneficial way. So simply you cultivating a deeper level of presence and engagement without having to work any harder at it, just working on that, you will already increase your impact and influence. And if you really are resonating from your heart and from your highest values, then that impact and influence can only have a beneficial effect on those around you. And if you can keep repeating that, then you will see that that's how you begin to see the lasting effects of who you are. And that brings fulfillment and purpose to one's life. To feel that just cultivating a deeper level of presence, staying connected to who you are, engaging in an authentic way with respect and honor is already enough of a practice to shift the whole dynamic on the planet. So I just want to offer that as something to think about. Not rocket science, maybe not anything you may have never heard before, but the emphasis what I'm bringing on is this idea of the self. And to know that there's enormous power in trusting your own capacity. And that the job is to cultivate being as present and engaged as you can be, and the rest will follow. All right, so let's do our practice. Sitting in a way, remember there's no right way to do this or wrong way to do this. It's about finding your way with this. And sitting in a way where your spine can be straight. So that, and straight without being rigid. So you may not want to sit at the leaning against the back of your chair. You might want to sit more forward in the chair so that you can keep your spine straight. Also elongating from the back of your neck. So you're tucking your chin in a little bit, relaxing your jaw. And relaxing your belly, letting your hands rest on your thighs or your knees without grasping. And from here, bringing your attention to a spot in your lower belly, which I call your center, your core. And it's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body. So if you're investigating this for the first time, if you put your fingers together and you place your index finger over your navel, where your pinky resides, that's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel. And if you bring your attention now inside of your body, about a third of the way from the front of the body, by bringing your attention to that spot, the width of 3 fingers below your navel, 1/3 of the way into the body, bring your full attention to that spot, and that's what I would call your center, your core, your dantian, hara, center of gravity, impulse, creativity, where your personal power resides. And how you perceive reality, your center of awareness. So from your center, becoming aware of your contact points, becoming aware of the points, the surfaces of your body parts that are connecting with what you're sitting on, and the floor and the ground. And from those points, allowing yourself to drop in, let gravity bring you closer to the ground and to the chair or whatever you're sitting on. Training yourself to be held, to allow yourself to drop in and fully let yourself be held. No need to, aside from the fact of keeping in the principle of keeping your spine straight, relaxing around that as you drop in. So from your center, become aware of your physical body as we now engage in a deeper way with ourselves. Starting with the physical body. Observing, being aware of sensations and tension, relaxation, heart rate, rhythm of breath. From your center, become aware of your emotions. No judgment, no need to file the emotions into any particular order, just noticing which ones seem to be most present at this moment. Perhaps through your breath, giving them space to flow as we cultivate in this practice presence, awareness, balance, and flow. From your center, become aware of your thoughts. Not necessarily attaching to your thoughts, but from your center, observing the quality of your thoughts. Developing a stronger relationship with a part of you that's aware of your thoughts as opposed to the strong relationship that we all tend to have with our thoughts. And maintaining your connection with your core, your sense of your place of personal power is the foundation of this practice. Now bringing awareness to your heart, to the middle of your chest, where your heart power resides. Compassion, respect, courage. And from your center and from your heart, become aware of that part of you that may have connection with something larger than yourself. And from that part of you, becoming aware of, in this moment, what that connection is like. That connection with something larger than yourself. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. With more of an awareness of yourself in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now, with more of an awareness of yourself in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings, keeping your eyes closed. Kind of like spiraling out or expanding out, first with the self, first with your core, then your heart, then yourself, now your surroundings. Seeing yourself in this practice as the central point of it all. So noticing your surroundings from behind you, above you, in all directions. How far can that extend out to the walls of the space that you're in, if you're indoors? Sounds, smells. And with more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And now, as you cultivate a deeper relationship with the present moment, first starting with yourself and then with your surroundings, again, expanding on that, widening your scope of awareness, from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this meditation circle who are gathering on this call. Various parts of the planet. And cultivating the practice of, when you engage with others, first connecting with yourself as you engage with respect and honor from your center to their center, from your heart to their heart, with honor and respect. gathering in virtual community. And with more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And just take a moment to recall, are you still connected with yourself through this practice? Now that you've connected with your surroundings, now that you've connected with those in this meditation circle, have you lost your connection with yourself? And if that's the case, then see if you can come back to yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And with that awareness of self, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, now expanding your awareness to include all human beings from your center and from your heart, beginning with those human beings that you would label loved ones. And notice as you engage, maybe you see faces of people you know that you would call loved ones, family members, friends, colleagues, teachers, students. You may see groups of people, you may see individuals. Just take a moment while you're observing them from your center and from your heart. Can you also maintain a connection with yourself? And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label stranger. Again, noticing faces that arise or groups of people, could be neighbors, someone you saw in the supermarket, someone on the other side of the planet. But always asking the question, what is it like to engage with even a stranger with honor and respect from my center, my personal power, and my heart? Connecting with them in their personal power and their heart. And again, noticing as you engage with these strangers that you're also staying connected with yourself. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label adversary. And again, seeing if faces arise for you, any particular people that you would consider adversaries. Could be close to you, could be people in the news, again, on the other side of the planet, groups of people, being honest with yourself. And the question is, can you connect with these beings from your center, your personal power and your heart, and with honor and respect, connecting with their personal power and their hearts? And stay connected with yourself. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And now, with an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, those in this meditation circle, and all human beings, regardless of how you label them as loved one, stranger, or adversary, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just take a moment as you just imagine in your awareness that you're holding all human beings in your heart at this moment. And as these beings reside in your heart, just thinking of your highest values. And maybe to see how that can resonate as an aspiration to all human beings. Maybe your highest value is love, or truth, or family. Integrity, justice, delight of being. It starts with the self and it ends with the self. And holding on to those highest values in your heart and all the human family in your heart as we now narrow on focus. So taking the human family with you into your heart as you now bring your awareness from your center and from your heart to those in this meditation circle, those who are sharing in this practice at this moment. Bringing the human family with you, bringing your own heart and activation of your highest values. Now bringing those in this meditation circle with you into your heart as you bring your awareness from your center and your heart back to your surroundings. Bringing it home. Your highest values, the human family, this fellow meditation community, into your surroundings. Now bringing your surroundings into your heart as you bring your full awareness and attention back to yourself. Deep into your core, filling up your core like it's a battery with your own values. With your experience with all human beings. Noticing the effects of this practice, perhaps feeling more expanded in your heart, more energized, more resilient, more compassionate, more passionate. And as a way to close this practice from your center and from your heart, take one final breath in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Very slowly open your eyes. Look around your room, stretch your body a little bit, shake a little bit. And so we started with motivation, we did our practice, and now there's space for us to share. If there's anybody who wants to share what your experience was, anything you want to share based on some of the things that I was talking about, or in the practice, or what's, for those of you who've been coming on a regular basis, what's been coming up for you this week around the idea of reviving the global heart? Have you done it yet? Did you accomplish it? It's good to see you, Matt.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everyone. Good to see you as well.
Yeah. Good to see you, Tommy.
Good to see you all.
Anyone want to share?
So, Joe, if we're all one, how does it start with the self and end with the self? I noticed a little, like, I don't want it to end with me.
Wow, how much time you all got? Well, first of all, let me respond. This is just my viewpoint, right? And I'm sure everyone else would have a different. I mean, are you asking me or just leaving it there for, is that a question to me?
Yeah, that's really a question to you.
Okay, just want to make sure. I don't hog all the time. So the way I see it, my initial response to the last thing you said was that it begins with the self and it ends with the self in the same way that a breath has a beginning and an end. And so for me, the idea of ending means just that moment right before a beginning. And so in the practice, we begin with the self and we come back to the self. And then we can do the practice again, and then we come back to the self. And that's a natural cycle of expansion and contraction, expansion, contraction, of things arise, are born, they have their highest moment, and they die away. And then from that, something new is born. So every time you could say that we engage out in this way, you know, we're born, that we start the practice with self, it's a beginning, and we engage out, that's our highest point. And then the self that we knew dies away for a new self to be emerged, you could say. So it's a continual practice. That's what I got right now on that. I'm sure I can say more. But in terms of if we're all one, how could it be the self? I don't know if that would be a longer discussion of what that means to be all one. For me, being all one means being interconnected. So every cell in your body is connected to the larger system of the entire body. And that one cell has its function and can rest in contentment and peace, and knowing that if it's fulfilling its function, that it's fulfilling its function, and rest in and find peace in knowing that hopefully every other cell is doing their job, and that together they create something miraculous like you. So that to me is how I would define one in terms of interconnectedness, so that the self becomes just as important and valid in that as the whole. How's that? Anyone, any thoughts on, or anybody else have an answer to Todd's question?
I saw a thumbs up from Jeff. That was a response.
Way to bring it home, Joe. My, Todd, one of the things I occasionally experience around the self and the one, or the self and the others, is when I had a recent experience going so far in to self. Actually, I want to say two things about it. Going so far into self that my being turns inside out, and then is in connection with the everything, or the all the other humans. But it's not the starting place is not the impulse to go out. The action is to go so far in that something kind of toroidals out. And in that experience recently, I was like, oh, it gave me a new awareness of what the Buddha or the Buddhist practice is. That degree of interior stillness naturally generates an outflow without it being the intention, or the first level of intention.
Said you had two things?
Well, in my consciousness, it's related, but it would be a different topic that we have talked about in this meditation. It's that the going inward, and to feel that all of that stillness or peace or pleasure is actually for me. And I think I've been reflecting that the privilege conversation in me can be a barrier to receiving the, I'd call it the non-competitive bounty, right? Like my life is so full of good. How could I actually allow myself to receive more good when there are people who are suffering, and in that kind of hierarchic chain? But I think I've been watching how that prevents me from taking in things that are available to me that don't take anything away from anybody else. But I'm caught in in this story about my privilege as problematic, which it is in one dimension, but it doesn't have to prevent me from feeling the spiritual bounty that's available to me. So.
Thank you, Jeff. Beautiful.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Todd, I'm glad you asked. Jeff, I'm glad you responded. Fun. Excited. I have to say, I loved the, I love this addition a little bit more about like coming back to the self and not losing the self in the process. Because it gave me a little bit more of a holographic sensation. Like I realize there's ways I get in like a little habit with this meditation where it's like now I reach out in my mind to others, and it was like all that's happening in my body. Like it's you know what I mean? Like it's still happening from myself. I could just like hold it a little closer. And it just made it, yeah, it made it a little more holographic and a little like sort of precious and closer actually somehow. So that was fun for me. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Joe, you know what comes up for me is some work I did this weekend made me ever aware of how all change happens in an instant. There's certainly the build up to it, but the actual change itself happens instantaneously and or very quickly. And so that, you know, in every moment we're reborn somehow, some way. And this practice is really just an expanded exploration of how we how change occurs inside of us by being mindful of our connection to the ever larger and expansive groups of people and humanity and so forth. And so what comes up for me is just that, yeah, in this brief meditation is an opportunity to be, to evolve.
It can be that simple. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Oh, nice. Anyone who doesn't usually share want to share? Maybe Vic, my neighbor, my DC neighbor.
TJ is unmuted.
I'll share. I'm not sure I have it all, you know, with a bow on it yet, but what came up for me was the duality of love and hate and internalized oppressions, internalized homophobia specifically, and how that comes out in the world and in myself, who I feel is an adversary, is somebody actually struggling with their own internalized homophobia often. And yeah, it's really deep. So just pondering that. Thank you.
Thank you. That to me is the what you just described as the essence of compassion, the deepest levels of compassion. Yeah. And that says a lot about who you are. It takes courage to hold that. Yeah, thank you.
So my name's Pam. I'm quite new to this group. I've been taking a class with Joe and his colleagues through work. This is my second time joining this group, and although I've dabbled in Buddhist philosophy for a number of years, I'm still very much at the beginner stage. But what came up for me today is something that I've been struggling with for the last week or so, or contemplating, struggling for the last week or so. And that's balancing my needs with the needs of others. So we can talk about it, we talk about being one, but at the same time, each of us needs certain things that can be difficult to reconcile with what other people need. And in my case, I'm fairly embarrassed to even say this because it's so completely pedestrian and really, I really got overworked about all of this. It has to do with a shared boundary line between my house and my neighbor's house. And I assumed the worst, and I, kind of spiraled out of control. And my neighbors had no idea that something was bothering me. And we wound up talking for about 2 hours on Saturday. And it was a great discussion, and it turns out there was, a really easy compromise. And I don't know that it even was a compromise. I think it was one of these win-win-win situations. But, this thought that what I need isn't somehow in conflict with what other people need or want, and how hard it is for all of us to reside on this planet, and how natural it is for each of us to be self-focused. So so that's what, it sounds so silly, but
Well, Pam, I don't know if there's any need to judge yourself.
of course there's no need to
here.
judge myself.
So stop
but
it.
This is
So stop it.
yes, Dad.
Right. It's. I'm teasing a little bit, but at the same time,
No, of course you're.
But what you're speaking is, I think you just named it. That's why this idea of the self. It starts with, the more you do this practices like this, you learn to, with awareness, and go within and listen to your own personal power and your own heart. You get to have a deeper relationship with what your needs are. And it's from there that you can, and also how to set your boundaries, and how to take care of yourself.
And also how to verbalize what you need. I've always had trouble with being able to say what I need.
But it sounded like you did a good job there. And I would just say, if you focus on needs, you're in the right direction. And if you focus on wants, that's where wars can happen. If everyone claims what they want, then it's different from, let me just clarify what I need, and you let me know what you need.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, I believe on this planet there is enough for everyone.
Yeah. And your book, I ordered your book and it arrived on Saturday. I was like, oh man, I wish I had this on Thursday.
Well, it sounded like you did a good job, Pam.
It's really, the book is really what I need.
Okay.
It's very helpful already. And
thank you. All right. Thank you, Pam. And thank you to all of you. We started with our motivation. We did our practice. We got a chance to reflect and share and learn from one another, support one another. Let's finish with a motivation, dedication, just thinking about all the energy that we've generated from our hearts, from our highest values for all beings on this planet. And just direct it to places where you think it's needed. It could be for yourself, parts of yourself that could use a little support. People who are struggling, who could use support physically or emotionally. Those who are fighting the good fight, getting into the good trouble, as John Lewis says, for other beings, for all beings. And may all beings on this planet have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments and leaders govern from a place of wisdom as opposed to fear and greed. Okay, thank you all. It's great to see you again. As always, we're here every Tuesday. If you know people who you think would enjoy being part of this, feel free to let them know. And have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, Joe.